Well, good to see everybody out this morning. I think this week, it's been gray about all week. I think it hasn't been. I don't think that we've seen the sunshine in at least that long. Either rainy or foggy, cold, damp, wet. Then we talked to my daughter who's down in Florida. Oh, it's 70 degrees. I don't want to hear it. Oh, we've had a couple of cold snaps. It's 39, it gets back up to about 60, 70. I don't want to hear it. But anyway, glad to have everybody out. We got through part of the holidays and gearing up for the next set. Let's go to our God and our Father in prayer and before we get started in our lesson this morning. Almighty God, Father, so thankful for every day that you bless us with. Thankful, Father, that we're able to come together in the comfort of this building, sit here amongst one another, study your word, and be mindful, Father, of our tongue. May, Father, the things we say, how they impact others. We just pray, Father, that you be with us this morning as we study the art of what is called character assassination, how we can, damage others' lives, sometimes permanently. And thank you, Father, the things we do now that we have the power of our internet and the power of things in front of us, just information that we have, and that we use it accordingly and use it to further your kingdom rather than to cause grief amongst other people. Be with us more as we study, Father, and it's in your Son's name, Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen. All right, so a gossip always seeks out the faults of people. He overlooks all the good in a person and speaks only evil. That I had to look this up. It's a Jewish book, like a Jewish book of what do you call it? I can't get the word in my head right now, but it's things how you're supposed to live your life. Just general things about living life or whatever like that. But it doesn't even have a specific known author to it. But this is one of the quotes out of it. And this is what the book actually is called. But just knowing that, all across pretty much any faith, any belief, any religion, it doesn't matter what they believe, what they think, everybody has something to say about the tongue, about how you speak, about what you say, and something about that, and that it's never good. It's rarely anybody puts a quote out there that has something to do about the tongue. It's rarely good. In 1994, USA Today story. 11 children accused a teacher of fondling them. And it went to this, it quickly said, it informed the state's attorney's office who conducted a thorough investigation. Now, it was a 9-year-old girl. She offered $1 to 9 girls and 1 boy to make the false claim. And it said 11, all of them accepted it. All of them took $1, and for that $1, they went around telling and went to people that would care to know and told them that this teacher touched them. So in our English language, we kind of coined this character assassination. Although they found out, come to find that all these accusations concerning this teacher were false, it was still believed. You still got in your mind from then on, did she really do that? Are these kids, did it happen to the one? And she just wanted, support from the rest of them or whatever. But in this sense right here, it was false. She just wanted to put it out there. And why would a 9-year-old even think to do that? That's what kind of floored me. Why would a 9-year-old get in their mind to discredit any kind of teacher and tell this kind of malicious lie? Because it's just awful to think of. We think about it is bad enough that, that you have adults with teenagers. That now, teenagers look more and more and more like adults as they get into high school. But then an adult has an affair or something with a teenager, whether it be male or female. I think that's bad enough. And yes, we find out that it happens. And yes, these teachers lose their jobs. And in various other, positions where you have some form of authority, but still. But this was just a blatant point in talking about character assassination. Proverbs 22:1 said, "A good name is to be chosen rather than great riches, and favor is better than silver or gold." Said a good name is better than precious ointment in the day of death, and the day of death than the day of birth. Some quotes. Good name in man and woman is the intermediate jewel of their souls. But he that filches from me my good name robs me of that which not enriches me and makes me poor indeed. It takes many good deeds to build a good reputation, and only one bad one to lose it. Abraham Lincoln said, "Character is like a tree and reputation like its shadow. The shadow is what we think of it. The tree is the real thing." See, that takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. If you think about that, you'll do things differently. Now, I'm thinking about the way he talks about this is he took his 20 years to building this, and then all of a sudden I do something, that ruins the whole thing. But put that in another sense. If you think about that, you'll do things differently. If it took me 20 years to build myself up to the point of, where I am in business, where I am spiritually, or where I am in any walk of life, and then you take it upon yourself to do one thing to discredit all that, 20 years of that is gone. And it was your fault. Just by one thing you said, one thing you spread and put out there. So let's look at the curious case of Ty Cobb. And I'm actually going to read this story and get through this here. But it said, baseball's first superstar was Tyrus Ty Raymond Cobb. He lived from 1886 to 1961 and was born and died in Georgia. He played center field for a total of 24 years, 22 with the Detroit Tigers and 2 for Philadelphia Athletics. He was the first inductee into the Baseball Hall of Fame, holding 43 regular season career records, one of which is the highest lifetime batting average at .366. It is unheard of that a modern player would go through an entire season hitting over 400. But Cobb did it 3 times. Major League greats Casey Stengel and Smokey Joe Wood said he was the best baseball player of all time. On one particular occasion, Cobb stole second, third, and home on 3 consecutive pitches. It said, listen to a few quotes about Cobb. So Joe Wood said, "He was the best ball player I ever saw. I always said if there was a league higher than the majors, Ty Cobb would be the only fella in it. Just as you think about doing something, Ty would be doing it. He was always one step ahead of you." George Sisler, a Hall of Fame inductee himself, commented, "The greatness of Ty Cobb was something that had to be seen, and to see him was to remember him forever." So despite his impressive on-the-field accomplishments, many remember Cobb as a dirty player who who sharpened his spikes to injure his opponents and was not liked by his fellow teammates. Even worse stories were circulated about Todd Cobb being a racist. So he would, as the stories went, beat up any black person he saw, and reportedly killed a black waiter because he came across as snooty. Cobb's reputation became so bad that a reference was made to him in the film Field of Dreams, when Shoeless Joe Jackson comments that Todd Cobb was not invited because no one liked him. Charles Learston, a former executive editor of Sports Illustrated, decided to write a biography on Cobb, since there had not been one published in about 20 years. Said, having heard all of his life about how Cobb was a racist and dirty player, he delved into original source material expecting to find untold, incriminating stories. So to his surprise, he found out all the stories to be false. In his book, Ty Cobb, A Terrible Beauty, he tells of how Cobb's teammates admired and loved him, as did his opponents, who said he played the game hard but clean. Wally Shang said that Cobb never cleated him and described him as a pretty slider. So as a matter of fact, in 1910, Cobb petitioned the league to make the players dull their spikes to prevent injury. But what about his personal life? Was Cobb indeed a racist? The evidence points the other way. So Cobb came from a long line of abolitionists, and his grandfather was driven out of town for preaching against slavery. Cobb said that black people should be accepted fully into baseball and play alongside the white players. He often went to black baseball games throughout the first pitch and sat in the dugout with the players. So you've got these things, like say, Charles, he wrote the biography, he finds out that all this stuff about Ty Cobb was false. And he goes into it and refutes things. He's like, this is a totally different story from what I've been hearing. But this was built up by somebody else. Like say, this is 20 years down the line that he decides to dive into this and see what is, see the real truth of things. And see if, let's get the facts straight and see if this is all true. And the evidence of racism, like I say, he all the different things that we talk about through him, through his family, through his, preaching against and have abolitionists and his, his grandfather preaching against it, being even run out of town, and the things he did in the black community and wanting to support them. But then we get to Al Stump. So it says, where did all these lies come from? Stump was a journalist and author who was caught making stories up about people. Now, it wasn't just about Ty Cobb. It was others. He just made up stories, inflammatory stories, and put them in the newspaper, put them in his books, and put them in whatever, whoever would read them, he put them out there. But it says because of his repeated lies, Stump was actually banned from several publications. When he published several things which were untrue about Cobb, Cobb threatened to sue him. So Stump bore a grudge. And after Cobb's death, this is what gets me, he didn't do it while he was alive. Obviously, he probably would have taken him to court. He would have got him for defamation of character. He would have put him in the ground, ruined his life in the fact that he was ruining his own, or ruining Cobb's. But he waited until he died. So after Cobb's death, He began to publish several articles and wrote a book about how Cobb was a dirty player, hated his own teammates, and was a staunch racist. And all of Stump's sources were anonymous. No one ever bothered to check his facts. The sports writers of the day knew Stump had spent very little time with Cobb and knew little of his character, so they were quick to rush to the deceased Cobb's defense, but it did little good. Stump continued to write lies, gossip, and slander, and it eventually stuck. A good man who fought for the equality and rights of others is currently believed to be a dirty player and a racist. You know, I'd never heard any of this stuff about Ty Cobb until I got into this lesson. Didn't even know it was out there. And quite frankly, wouldn't have cared to know it was out there. Just knowing, I'm not a huge fan of baseball, but I know who Ty Cobb was. I know who Babe Ruth was. And it's probably no lie, I just lie, but no secret about Babe Ruth's life. I mean, he wasn't a great guy. Anybody would paint it that way, you know. But over something that he, like I say, he held a grudge against Ty Cobb because he was going to potentially sue him for things that he was saying. Well, I'll just inflate this. And the sorry part about it is that he did it after he died. And now some people know and we still want to believe it. His character is demeaned. So what does that, things it means for us? The lasting impression is that, that book written is still out there. You can get the book. I went on Amazon the other day and just looked. That book's still there. And the one that the Sports Illustrated writer wrote. They're both out there. So you can get either version you want and believe either version you want. But the difference is Al Stump didn't have any cooperation of anything that he wrote. There's not a person named in that book that gave him the information. Nobody wanted to have their name published along with that. They just put the information out there. On the other side, the gentleman from Sports Illustrated went through and found his information, corroborated his facts, put it all in there to refute it. It still didn't do any good. So people still have their belief. Yep.
Heavily invested into baseball most of my life and all. Of course, I did come across information like, about Ty Cobb and, of course, the earlier book being written and kind of saying those things and, again, character assassination and whatnot, which is very unfortunate because, like you're saying, someone takes literally what's been put out there and then, which is also similar to what happens now in social media and things of that nature. All it takes is one negative person to go and then put out some type of character assassination. And the sad part about it is that there's a large percentage of people that will take it as gospel.
Yeah, sure.
And then they'll just take it and run with it. And so, of course, you can see during his time and everything else had to be in a book, so you actually had to read it and that kind of thing. But, of course, today, it could be around the world within 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of the
and like I say, we're marrying this character assassination up with media, social media, and getting to that point. But yeah, all this stuff, it's in written form. It's still out there. You can go by it. You can read it. But think of the two sources. One's corroborated, one's not. One was hearsay, put into words, and one was not. And it comes to the things that we say. If it's hearsay, we shouldn't be saying it. It shouldn't be repeated. And it definitely shouldn't be written down for everybody else to read or put out there for people to just find. So, that's what happened with you get into that. So lessons learned. When people gossip, they usually have an axe to grind. That was Al Stump. It was personal to him. He wanted to make a deal of it, and he did. So we often accept the lie over the truth without investigation. Proverbs 18:17 says, "The one who states his case first seems right until the other comes and examines him." So that information you get out there, it originally kind of, well, that sounds about right, until you check the facts and found out. Yes?
Proverb right there is exactly why you have cross-examination. And you have, if you're accused of something, you have a right to cross-examine the person who accused you because of exactly this biblical principle.
Yeah, exactly. But it's on us to get the facts right before we start spreading things around. It's easy for us to take in information. But then again, we're going to get to take it with a grain of salt, It said lies and gossip are strengthened by repetition and persistence. Stump drove it. He kept writing. He kept on. And people that believed it kept sending the same message to the point that it's still, in some circles, and this has been a while back, still believed. Ty Cobb died before I was born. I was born in the same decade there. But thinking about that and me later on, and I had to be born, grow up, and start learning about baseball, and then learn about who Ty Cobb was. And the information is still there. Cobb's story and others like it should make us reevaluate negative reports. So, anything that's come to you that's negative about someone, you ought to be evaluating it. Today. There you go. And the last part of that is thinking, have we apologized for damaging somebody else's reputation? If there's something that you had ever said to somebody and you realize later on, or said about somebody, then you realize later on that it was not true, that it was defaming to them, did you ever go back to that person and say, "I'm sorry, I didn't realize what I was saying would hurt you. I didn't realize what I was saying would put a bad light for you around others." And even of that fact, even if it's true, you corroborate the fact. Is it within you to go out and keep on repeating it? It's not. It's not our information to give. It's not our information to share. So let's jump into the social media aspect of things. Mark Twain says, "It takes your enemy and your friend working together to hurt you in the heart. The one to slander you and the other to get the news to you." So you get that circle. You may not even know you've been talked about, and your friend is involved, and they finally come to tell you this lie is being spread. A little bit of history about social media, at least by the internet, how it all came about. 1969, advanced research project called ARPANET. It was between 4 colleges, I think it was. They were doing a research project, and in order for them to share the information together more rapidly and be more efficient in what they're doing, they built this internet thing where they could see the information readily. Then in 1987, there's a National Science Foundation called NSFNet. And then the very first social media platforms, it didn't stay around very long, it's called 6 Degrees. Never heard of it. 2001, you got Friendster. 2003, MySpace. I remember that one. I don't remember much about Friendster. And then you got Facebook. Interesting enough, I was reading about this and the money involved in it. You know, obviously there's a ton of money that circles around the Facebook world right now. But Justin Timberlake, he bought MySpace in 2011 for the nice hefty sum of $35 million. It's not even a thing anymore. You know, it fell apart. But then we get to, you know, we got Facebook, then Reddit, Twitter. Elon Musk purchased Twitter for $44 billion. $44 billion. I can't imagine how much money that generates back to a person that you would spend $44 billion because you're going to make something out of it. You're going to make something off of it. That's just insane to me. How much money filters through that. Then you got Instagram and Pinterest. There's a lot of people that's on Instagram. I don't follow it that much. I get on Pinterest just for crafting ideas. Redo something's already made, and then sell it myself. Snapchat I never was on. The girls on it. And you know, there's other platforms out there now. There's still more being made. I think there's one called Threads. I've had people invite me to it. I've never got on it. You know, Facebook is about as bad a deterrent to me as anything else. What's some of your benefits of social media? You think about, okay, we're talking about social media in a bad light, and that's, you know, we're going to put it that way, obviously. Let me get this. I was trying to print off my notes. We're out at printer ink, so now I got to read it off my little phone here. Some of the notes are to it. But some of the benefits: educational and spiritual growth. I mean, there's a lot of education out there on things. I mean, I like looking at the videos that has to do with woodworking. You know, I get ideas from people. I get things, people find out things, quick tips, tricks, whatever like that. There's stuff out there. There's good stuff out there. Some awareness of events. We'll put on there that we've got, you know, our singing coming up in July. We put on there VBS. You know, there are people that came to our Vacation Bible School this past year because they saw it on Facebook. We didn't physically send out an invite to them. We didn't go to their house and knock on their door and say, hey, we're having Vacation Bible School. They saw it on social media. It just, for whatever reason, it popped up on their thread. They saw it. They came. We have plenty of people that put out their prayer requests, you know, spiritual support. Me personally, I can't bring myself to put on there praying. You know, I don't know what it's just unfeeling. I'd rather write somebody a card or talk to them personally, or, you know, if I'm going to say I'm praying for them, I'll put the prayer that I prayed, you know, in physical form, in a written form, what I've said. But I guess it makes people feel good that people out there see it and they know people are supporting them and that they are praying for them. Helping people in crisis. And it's also, you know, locating, you know, missing persons through shared alerts. I mean, I've seen that before where, you know, you got some old person that's got Alzheimer's and they saying, this person is missing. Be on the lookout for them because they're trying to find them. Rapid fundraising. GoFundMe. Many people have been helped that way. Emergency updates, sharing, you know, during hurricanes, wildfires, other disasters. You know, we've put out there, we've done things, we've garnered people to get together and do those kinds of things and go and help out people. You know, acts of kindness, you know, spread or shared. Things that you've done or things that you've seen done and you want to share it to everybody else. You know, community organizing for good. You know, coming together at a common, you know, ground to do something to build another community up. You know, back when in May of a couple of years ago, and we had the tornado come through. You know, we put on there on Facebook and different places that we were going to gather together, different places to come help. You know, different people did that. And they did. They just gathered up. You know, giving voice to the needy. You know, all these different things we're talking about that we can do. You know, like distance connection and compassion. You know, there's some friends of mine from high school that I hadn't seen in forever. Now I see different things about their lives. I really don't care about everybody in high school. Most of them I have friends on Facebook. But the ones that that I hung around with the most are there. The one friend that I had on there at one time, his name was Blue Winstead. He got on there. I saw him. We reconnected. We actually got together, set a place to get there. We met at my mom and dad's house. The last time I saw him alive. But we reconnected for that one time. You know, memories of things that we had done. And during COVID, he was one that did not want to take the vaccine. He got COVID, and it ended his life. But we were able to connect that way, and I'm still connecting with those people. But pitfalls of social media, spreading false accusations, you know, claims of infidelity or marital problems posted publicly without evidence, rumors that someone was fired, arrested, or involved in criminal behavior, expose posts about someone's past intended to do or intended to shame them. You know, anonymous attack accounts. Whoops, back at one. You know, fake profiles created to mock or harass a specific person, and you know, imposter accounts pretending to be someone and posting harmful content. You know, people will hijack your account and put things out there that you did not say. And it takes a lot of effort to get that erased, to get that gone. And once somebody reads it, they say, oh, really? But then they find out but it's there. It looks like it's you. Viral sharing without verifying. You know, something comes up, you just blast it out there, and now it's a viral thing, then it comes up, oh, it wasn't true after all. But now that it's out there, it's hard to reel it back. Character assassination through comments. You know, humiliation for entertainment. Church and congregational drama. Subtweeting and vague disparagement. So indirect insults like some people just can't be trusted, aimed at known individuals. Sharing sarcasm or passive-aggressive posts intending to stir suspicion. Gossip disguised as prayer request. You're putting out this, whatever's out there about somebody, some turmoil in their life, and you're asking for prayers, but you're spreading the news about that person with a prayer request attached to it. Various things. So this is some excerpts that I pulled off of Facebook itself. Most of these come from iHeart, either Columbia or iHeart, Spring Hill, or whatever. Yeah.
A lot of those social media posts, I mean, something that I find myself in a lot of times is I think we need to be careful sometimes what we see and how we respond to, and be sure we don't give likes and approval to things that are gossip or things that are untrue or slander or whatever it might be. You know, Romans 1:32, 31:32 says, without understanding, untrustworthy, unloving, unmerciful, and although they did not know the ordinance of God, that those who practice such things are worthy of death, that they not only do the same, but also give hearty approval to those who do it.
Yeah.
So, you know, we need to be careful that we don't just kind of hide in the shadows and give a bad post momentum.
Yeah.
I've seen people do it, and truth be told, I've probably done it at some point. You know, I hope not, especially recently, and now that I'm in my 30s. But, you know, I had social media at 16. I mean, no telling what I did. But, you know, it's just one of the things, something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, if you're giving approval to things, people see you as being the one that supports it, you know. There's going to be a lot of evil things put out there. But just think about this one. And you see these kinds of things all the time. It says, do not, and I hope you can read it very well because it's about as big as it gets. It said, do not, and I repeat, do not apply to the Dunkin' on Wall Street in Spring Hill. I didn't put the whole post. There's a whole lot more to this thing. It says, the new GM will treat you like you're an inmate, cuss at you, scream at you, treat you as if you are absolutely stupid and don't know what you're doing, even when you've been there for almost a year and they've only been there a few months. I got fired on my day off, and I trespassed. There's a lot more to this story. But she's putting down the manager that's there right now. Now, it may be all true, but why you got to put it out here? For everybody around and all to see. Come on, there we go. Another one. So I am starting to wonder, is being unfaithful just part of the Ultium sales culture? Or did I just get lucky with an isolated case? I don't know what that's talking about. Between the stories of drinking and drug use on the job, HR must be running a pretty relaxed program over there. I blacked out some names. Some people had their name on there. I'm not posting that up there. It said, please be on the lookout for a man, mid-50s, 60s, driver, a silver SUV, has a blue work shirt, and she actually put out there his plate number, black that out. The man attempted vehicular manslaughter and tried to run into me head on while I was riding my bike. There was another whole narrative to that she gave that shows out that this man was intentionally trying to hit her. Again, you put a plate number out there and trying to find whatever old man that just about run you over. Well, ride your bike somewhere else. So, and I'm not going to post the videos, it says, because the people in them, but I can pin you. So I can send you a personal message with any other information you want, but I'm not putting it here. But I'm more than eager to put that out there for you. Just let me know. But I have pictures of vile things that happened this morning at Spring Hill High. Y'all need to get a hold of your kids and discipline them. This is beyond a prank. This is other people's high school career. I don't think these students understand the severity of what they did. I hope you are ashamed of yourself and your parenting skills that have let them think that this is okay. So see, not only, putting it out there about what happened, you could have posted some pictures that this is disgraceful. And there were pictures to this of what happened. But the fact that she's actually attacking the parent's character too. Kids do stupid things, and it may not even be the fault of how the parents raised them at all. They just do dumb things. It was pretty bad. Pictures that were shown. Great. Spring Hill is becoming more unsafe than ever. Especially the part of the video where a dummy left his handgun in the car as it was stolen. I don't know what the SMH is. Guess which one is still missing? That's right. It's not the car. Someone has the person's handgun. And likely is going to use it for something nefarious. This is getting out of hand.
That means shaking my head.
Oh, shaking my head. See, that gets you. I don't know all the little three-letter lingo that goes along with a lot of these things. Sometimes, So there you got it. I'm just shaking my head. All right. That's great. Come on. Advance the slide, please. There. So, this is all was said. Busy by Port Royal. And they just took a picture. They videoed as they went by all the cars. Yeah.
Too is just, you think about people just having the wrong mindset. In the same way that it is somewhat innocent, but like the latest movie I saw is the greatest movie I ever saw. The last book I read is the greatest book I ever saw. The thing that happened to me today is the greatest thing that ever happened to me. Just taking things not taking them in the context of life. So
Yeah.
I was frustrated by something that happened today, but I'm not thinking about my life in a full context, or I'm not thinking about my day or that person's day. Like, if you will try to have a mindset that, like, things will annoy me today because they've always annoyed me, and every day that I live, something will annoy me. And if you have that mindset about your day, some of the stuff you're just like, whatever. But it's, in some ways, it's kind of attaching a very self-importance to every minute of my life, and it's not saying that your life isn't important, but this moment is not the be-all, end-all of everything that ever was and ever will be. And if you don't check yourself on that mindset, then you end up with lots of things like that.
Yeah. But people use this whole platform as an easy outlet to vent their frustration, and it lands on other people. You know, it shouldn't be a place for you to just vent. You know, go home and pray about it. Pray about the people involved. Keep things to yourself. Bring it. You know, Murray Regional trolls the internet. I'm sure Vanderbilt does too. They have people that troll the internet, troll Facebook and different ones, just looking for comments that the employees make. You make something bad, you say something against Murray Regional or against your employer, you're going to be brought in on the carpet. Likely you could be fired for it. You know, I the other day I'm friends with on Facebook with one of the staff members at work, and I opened it up, and the very first post, it hits me right in the face. And she didn't say anything about Murray Regional. She didn't put anything about it. She goes, use the F word, F this day, I need a drink. Only place she'd been was work that day. So it had to be something that happened during the day. But that was her that was all she said. Very, very, bam, right in your face. And all caps, great big thing. All right, last one they said, and this one had a person's likeness, the person's picture. And it wasn't like they'd been arrested. It was a nice picture of the person. I don't know if they were arrested or not. But said, I wonder how many women he has approached at bars or been intimate with, given his role as a father, spouse, and authority figure in a small town. It's a pathetic situation. And if you knew about it and still participated, you're just as culpable. This one was not a complaint, other than it was Cheryl Seacrest, council member, telling people, says, complaining to groups on Facebook will not get anything solved. It will only get reactions and conversations about people that would not take place in person. Please do not complain on Facebook about the city. Contact your council member so they can get the information to the correct department. Please do not put pictures of people's homes on Facebook. That is disrespectful and dangerous. I don't know how many people saw that. That was the first time I rolled across it. But she was out there telling people, just quit. So some scriptures to consider before we get about 5 more minutes in here. But no human can take you say this was supposed to, like I said, in the scripture says the tongue. But no human can tame the keyboard. That's your tongue. Whether you typed it, whether you verbalized it, it's the same thing. It is a restless evil full of deadly poison. A fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion. A fool gives full vent to his spirit, but a wise man quietly holds it back. So some questions. What are my motivations to putting this online? In Leviticus 19:18 says, "You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against the sons of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord." In Matthew, "So whatever you wish that others would do to you, do also to them, for this is the law and the prophets." Normally consider that the golden rule. In Philippians 4:8 it says, "Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worth of praise, think about these things." Am I participating in spreading gossip, or am I building up in the Lord? 2 Corinthians, "For I fear that perhaps when I come, I may find you not as I wish, and that you may find me not as you wish, that perhaps there may be a quarreling, jealousy, anger, hostility, slander, gossip, conceit, and disorder." What if you put it this way? "For I fear that perhaps when I get online, that I may find you have posted unpleasant things concerning me, and that there may be all these things." Will my interactions on social media illustrate how to be salt and light in the world? It said, "You are the salt of the earth, but if salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. You're the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. So nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to the Father in heaven." Colossians 4:5-6 says, "Walk in wisdom toward outsiders, making the best of your time. That your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you ought to answer each person." I don't know if we're going to get to this. We're going to try. If you go to Ephesians 5, like I said, it's kind of the conclusion of the matter. Too much to put on a slide. So therefore be imitators of God as beloved children, and walk in love as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us, a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God. But sexual immorality and all impurity or covetousness must not be named among you, as is proper among saints. Let there be no filthiness, nor foolish talk, nor crude joking, which are out of place, but instead let there be thanksgiving. For you may be sure of this, that everyone who is sexually immoral, impure, or who is covetous, that is, an idolater, has no inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and God. Let no one deceive you with empty words. For because of these things, the wrath of God comes upon the sons of disobedience. Therefore, do not become partners with them. For at one time you were darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Walk as children of light. For the fruit of the light is found in all that is good and right and true. And try to discern what is pleasing to the Lord. Take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. For it is shameful even to speak of the things that they do in secret. But when anything is exposed by the light, it becomes visible. For anything that becomes visible is light. Therefore it says, "Awake, O sleeper, and arise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you." You know, as we go through, the internet, Facebook, everything that's out there right now, you know they can go to your profile and find every post you ever made, everything you ever liked, everything you ever said. Same thing, you can do that. They call it stalking. You know, I never did this. I wanted to interview people for the people they are when they came into my office. But if I told my team members, my nurses, my staff, who I was intending to hire, they went on Facebook, and Facebook stalked them first. And they would come back with information. I'm like, I don't want to hear what their life is outside of here. I just want to know who they are, how they speak to me, and what they are professionally. You know, we all got our separate lives outside of work. Doesn't mean you can't be a good employee for me. You may not be a Christian. You may not follow the same morals that I do, but you could be a good employee for me. Just be careful on that. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Thank you for listening.